So I was going to say, Justin, you're exactly right. And I'll tell you, I've signed some 6 and 7 figure contracts in my days at the bank. And you know what was the biggest discussion is limitation liability. That's what so much of our contract negotiations centered around is limitation of liability. How does that work? Where does it work? What are the risks inside of all that? Those are things that I actually think a lot of MSPs and their clients don't talk about enough is how do we protect ourselves? Where do those limitations of liability exist? And even like Jason posted, if you guys scroll up and chat a little bit, Jason posted an example of a client suing the MSP, just like you were talking about, because in their mind, there's not that limit. Jason, Justin, you gave examples of that earlier. Walk us through high level. If I'm an MSP and I'm thinking, okay, I'm hearing you loud and clear, Justin, how do I begin those discussions of limitation of liability to protect myself as much as I can? What are the key things?
Well, again, I mean, depending on the carrier might ask you, and this is why I say you're not misrepresenting the facts by having this conversation. You might tell the carrier, hey, I use a master services agreement and statement of work with my client. Okay. So if that's what you're representing to the carrier, and then you're sitting down with the client and either A, they're not willing to sign an agreement, or B, a lot of carriers are asking, do you provide written security recommendations to your clients? Again, if you aren't doing that, then I, as an MSP, would sit down with the client and say, hey, in order for me to carry my insurance, which is important for us, right? Again, you need to have, you don't in my opinion, you don't dictate to the client. Remember, it's the CIO, CEO relationship. It's a we thing, not a me versus you. So sitting down with the client and saying, hey, we make representations to the insurance carrier that will be doing certain things. If we don't do these certain things, we could run into problems with the policy triggering. Therefore, we needed an updated MSA agreement. We need to make sure that we're following, that standard, or that you've got the security awareness training in place, or whatever it is they have. Oftentimes what I see the problem is an MSP thinks that the solution they're offering is right for a particular client. You know what? It has to be, if we go to court, right, the attorneys, again, are going to ask you, where did you come up with those recommendations? And outside of pointing to a standard or testifying in front of Congress with all these credentials, you're in big trouble, right? Because they're going to say, what credentials, or why did you come up with the solution that you came up with? And those are questions that MSPs have trouble answering when we go to court. So I would always ask the MSPs, regardless, if you don't have a file that we can hand to the attorney that has the master services agreement, the 6 critical action letters that you supplied to the client telling them why you need to do the things that they do, right? If you aren't doing those things, we're going to go to a courtroom and the jury of 12 independent jurors are going to look at you going, you're the expert in the room. They prepare tax returns, they design buildings, whatever it is they do. Why didn't they have those things in place? And that's what you got to be prepared to answer. And if you can't answer it, the judgment probably isn't going to go your way.
So that is a huge takeaway for us. Yeah. I'll just say this super quick, Andrew. That is a huge takeaway. If you didn't catch all that from Justin, go listen to this recording again and peel that out. Guys, it is so important to have these things documented, written, and clearly communicated to the client, because you're exactly right. In those times when you end up in the lawsuit or the potential of it, having that there as the clear communication is awesome. Very quickly, and then Andrew, I'll turn it back over to you because I know we want to get to questions. Gary, I got a question for you that Justin's just getting my mind thinking. Gary, we talk a lot about selling security in this whole series that we do in Crowdcast. It seems to me what Justin's saying is an opportunity for us as well, not just the threat and the risk of limitation of liability, but we can even use this with our clients and sales opportunities to walk and say, hey, help me, Mr. Client. These are the things that we have to do together in order for us to make sure that we've got coverage in our cybersecurity. You've got to be doing these things alongside me. It seems like that actually makes it a little bit more conversant and working together with the client to actually sell your security strategy, don't you think?